Welcome back to the UK Crypto Podcast. I'm Paula, and as always, I'm joined by Matty. Now, today we've got a slightly different episode going on because we're joined by Jamie Nuttall, the award-winning crypto tax accountant, and he's going to talk to us today about some updates for the UK tax regulations. Jamie, welcome.
Thank you very much, guys. Good to see you again. There's a lot's happened since I spoke.
Well, that's why you're here. We know there's a lot been happening, so we thought let's get him on, see what he's got to say, and see if we can learn what's going on. Tell us, what's been happening in the world of tax for UK crypto?
So we've had not one, not two, but three different angles for stablecoins recently within the UK, with regulation, policy, and all sorts of intertwining, if you like. The bottom line here is we might see tax-free stablecoins in the near future.
Wow, that's good. That's a real game changer.
So I saw you drop this into a group chat that I'm in. Won't say which one, but I saw you drop it and I was like, oh, okay. Now, you didn't put any meat on the bones. You literally just said potentially maybe something could happen. So tell us, what's going on?
So there's been a call for evidence that closed, I think, last week. And this is where the government, if you like, ask those who are in the space how they can change certain sort of maybe regulations, rules, maybe law guidances. And this particular one is about stable coins. Now, the issue they found was a lot of people tend to need to submit things to HMRC unnecessarily because of stable coins, where the tax differential is minimal, but because it is not a currency, it's an asset, even if it is stable and pegged to USD, GBP, whatever it might be, there might still be a legal obligation to submit. Now, this is an admin burden. So what that means is both us, HMRC, everyone involved, there's a lot of admin going on for very little taxes or very little losses. So they said, right, guys, can we change this up? If so, here are our questions and what are your suggestions?
So, you know, when you said they talk to people, who is these people and how do you end up being in that circle? What kind of group of people is this?
Yeah, so it's a variety, really. You get lots of tax people in there. You get people with crypto softwares representing. You've got people who are in the legal sector as well. You get a lot of international sort of advisory type people in there as well. And me, who kind of sits between the crypto and the tax and just being able to translate it. And I suppose my role in there is more of a practical perspective more than anything else, with a little bit of tax sort of tied into it.
So what they're saying at the moment is there's a lot of submissions coming from people and it's tying up a lot of time for HMRC. It's not creating a lot of revenue for tax, so they're trying to streamline it. Is basically what's coming out of this? That's
exactly it. The only other way around is to consider stablecoins currency, which is just not an option realistically to kind of move everyone out or side of the scope of submission. So I remember from a previous episode, we talked about the criteria for submitting tax returns. And one of them is if you have proceeds over £50,000. Now, if you deal with stable coins to the tune of 10, 50, £100,000, you go over that threshold very quickly with very few transactions. And they don't really, I mean, the economic benefit here for the revenue is very low.
Yeah. So if they don't want all of these submissions because it's just tying up their admin time, tell us what's changing and how that might affect people.
Yeah, so they asked us a load of questions. And the main one was, how should we treat stables in this sort of lens, if you like? And they gave us two options. The first one is to just completely eradicate it from the calculations, if you like. So anything to do with stables is just gone, which is great. The other one is that there's a de minimis threshold. So that means if anything is below a certain threshold, we're just ignoring it, whatever that threshold could be. Now, between myself and a few others who are at the top of our sort of career, if you like, in this realm, we actually said, hold on, we're part of another consultation to do with DeFi lending. And the solution might lie in that, so we can create a sort of general framework that covers both. So we suggested a nil gain, nil loss mechanism. I won't go into the technicals of it, but effectively it achieves the same thing.
Right.
But it also keeps the other side of it. It keeps it very streamlined. It's very easy for us tax people to deal with in comparison. And it achieves exactly the same thing, where those who are dealing with stables mainly are outside the scope. Now, why is this important to retail investors? I don't know about you guys, but the chances of us spending our USDC, USDT, whatever it might be with a tap, I know Tangent bringing out a Visa, MetaMask are bringing out a Visa, that now becomes a lot less of an issue. Because when we last spoke, we mentioned how that every single time you tap, that's a transaction.
Yeah, and there's a slight difference in currency between British pound and the dollar if it's tied to a dollar.
Yeah. And although it won't be a lot, it's just going to be a lot of transactions.
So you could completely dismiss all of those transactions and not have to worry about them, because the disposal would be when you turn it from your Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, whatever it would be, into your stablecoin, and then that's the end of the paper trail, really. Is that right? Is that what they're aiming for? That seems sensible.
It does seem sensible. Now, I want to put something towards you guys, because this is public knowledge, because anyone could have replied to it. The next question they said is, this is currently looked into only from a GBP stables perspective.
Right.
Oh.
Should we consider any other stables? What are your thoughts?
Yes.
Because everything is in dollars for us. So, yeah.
Because the reality is what's the big GBP stablecoin?
Well, yeah, that's the problem, isn't it?
Who's even using GBP stablecoins? It's not a thing, is it?
Why don't they treat it like currency? I know early on you said they're never going to do that, but why not? Why not treat it like cash of just a different currency? Why not treat it the same? What's the block there? I don't understand. My knowledge isn't big enough to understand why they wouldn't want to do that.
Well, it's a legal thing, because at what point could you create a stable coin and it be considered a currency and therefore outside the scope of tax? You're tax evading, you're tax dodging through many loopholes. That's number one. Number two, what stops people then moving all of their cash in the bank to stables? And then that kind of dilutes the power of the banks. I think that's a big issue as well.
That's probably the one they're worried about the most. Let's face it, that's the one.
Yeah, exactly. And I know you guys asked who uses GBP. So I did some research, which was part of my response, which I will publicize soon. And out of all the stable coins, guess what number is the top GBP in terms of ranking of market cap? The top GBP.
I don't even know how many stable coins are on that list.
Honestly, I wouldn't have a clue. Genuinely, and I'm not just throwing you a bone here. I genuinely haven't got a clue.
I think it's 85th.
Okay.
So the market cap differential in percentage between the top GBP stables in the entire world to the first is something like less than 0.5%. And that's just number one, not number 2, 3, 4, all the way through to 84. It's number 1 versus 85, which is the top GBP. So my point in my response was, this whole situation is almost completely pointless if we do not include other stables.
Absolutely.
USD-backed ones specifically.
USDT, USDC, those two, yeah?
Yeah, just anything. It has to include everything outside of GBP. Otherwise, it's just going to be pointless, because the burden is going to remain the same.
Yeah.
I have never held any GBP-backed stables.
Same.
And when I spend on my card, I will probably use USD anyway, even though it might visually look better on my phone if I can see GBP and then tapping away. But I'm probably still going to use USD back stables.
Because us crypto people are so used to thinking in dollars and pounds that it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter to me.
Yeah,
I would just be. That's what it is in pounds. And when I do it, and I might see it on my statement in dollars. It doesn't matter. Well, that's no different to when you go on holiday or something. Is it? It wouldn't be such a big thing at all.
But when was the last time you looked at a crypto chart in the value in pounds?
Years.
We just don't do it, do we?
Pardon?
First week.
Well, yeah, that's the point. When you first start out, everything defaults to pounds because you get into it. And then you soon realise the entire crypto world is talking in dollars. You don't understand what they're saying because they've gone, it's X amount. You think, oh, that's good. You think, oh, no, that's dollars, not pounds. And as soon as you switch it takes about a week. Your brain flicks into dollars. I never think about crypto in pounds anymore.
No.
Like, my brain doesn't think in pounds, it thinks in dollars. And I think the majority of crypto are the same.
So you've gone to them and said we've got to include
Yeah, that's sensible. What was
US
their reaction?
dollars. Yeah.
What was their reaction?
What are they saying?
Were they like, go away, we're British, let's talk pounds, or were they receptive?
So there was Chatham House rules in this conversation, which means I am actually allowed to talk about it in general a little bit, just not who said what.
Yeah, okay.
So effectively, they were open to it. They agreed that with my point that it would be almost pointless because of the scale of things. We believe as a collective that the issue is where parliamentary personnel are thinking it's just GBP, whereas the HMRC and our sort of advisors around it believe it must be, at least considered, if not definitely, to be included within the scope. So there's a little bit of a disconnect between the two sort of layers of the whole situation. Now, I can't go that far because once we give our opinion and everything else, HMRC decide what they want to do and then they push it forward. So I can't go that far. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out. There's been lots of opinions from lots of professionals that kind of contradict in some cases, slightly vary in others. So they have lots of different angles to go with. But ultimately, for my personal opinion, we need to include US backed stables at the very least, if not all stables, which means we also need to make sure that the definition of stablecoins is solid. And there's a whole new issue there because the FCA have their own definition. And then we also talked about whether we want a list to say these are stables. I suggested a combination of both. So we go, here's a definition, but here's a small list of these are probably stables for this definition.
So excuse my ignorance. Are you telling us at the moment there's no definition of what a stablecoin is legally?
There is,
Right.
But we need to make sure we know exactly what that is and if it's appropriate, because if the definition is slightly off, it might open us up to tax evasion of some kind. Again, using the example of you could create your own stable coin. What happens if it depegs? What happens to you if you rug it? What happens if it goes up in value for some reason? What happens
without mentioning the project's name, we come across a stable coin that appreciates, didn't we? So that's like a hybrid token. So what on earth do you do with that one?
Yeah.
Because you could effectively put your money into a stable coin saying that's tax free. But that stable coin actually tracks up, which I know that might sound strange for anybody watching this who doesn't understand, but it exists, it's there, and we don't really know what pot to put that in. Now, in this situation, that's a tax nightmare.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a headache.
It all comes down to the definition.
Yeah, which is why they need the definition. I understand that.
Yeah, and they need that. So those are the sort of, from my angle anyway, the top way. And this covers limited companies as well as individuals. There's all sorts of tax issues, compliance issues. There's been a few suggestions from everyone that actually increases the burden just to make sure it's completely accurate. A few members, some very intelligent people mentioned about the international issues of this all as well, because you're going to have people who are between countries, for example, or operate globally that this could affect. So yeah, it's very interesting. There's going to be some data out there on all this. I will publish mine probably at the end of the month latest, so end of May, just to see what people think about it and give you guys more information.
So I know that the UK is trying to put together this stablecoin framework at the moment, and this is obviously all in these conversations from professionals in the industry to try and pin this down. But have we got a definitive date as to when this should be done? Because everything takes such a long time. And I think because the UK government announced that they were going to talk about this framework, people have an expectation that at some point it's going to be clear on the rules. Is there any end in sight?
No. To put it in perspective, the other one that I'm part of has been going on since, I think, 2022.
Right.
Yeah, so 3 or 4 years. And I think this one might be quicker because I think there's some things coming in that's going to be affected heavily by the stables. And I think this particular consultation will affect the other one that's been going on for a while. So I want to say that the stablecoin one will be in a little bit quicker. Whether that's 1 year, 2 years, it really depends on the sort of political situation in the UK
landscape.
And who can push what.
Exactly. But do you think that this is the kind of regulatory red tape that crypto holders in the UK just are absolutely pulling their hair out at, because nobody has a clear pathway and everybody just feels in limbo.
Feels like it needs somebody to get hold of it and just fast track things, just get things done quicker before we fall behind.
Yeah, so you know I'm the first to defend us investors and to kind of break the mold of regulatory tape. Now, this consultation is regulatory tape because it's regulations around it. However, this tape actually enables an easier mechanic and a more fair mechanic for those who are investing or parking their money within stables. So this regulatory tape should actually accelerate innovation, especially for companies, depending on the outcome of this. So companies would be more likely or more able to or more favorable to start putting monies into stables, knowing that the compliance and the tax and everything else is a lot more straightforward.
Yeah. So I think once it's all done, it's going to create a great environment because people are going to understand the parameters. But we all know crypto hates this middle ground, this area where we're not clear. And if the UK is going to take another couple of years to get all this through, how much do we lose in terms of innovation and potential crypto holders in the UK in that time? Because it just doesn't feel like it is moving forward. Do you think we are behind in the UK because of this? Or are you looking at America and the Clarity Act and thinking, well, actually, they're all going through this same kind of thing?
We're definitely behind. And as I mentioned last time, we're at the stage where if we continue to be behind, we'll never catch up. We'll be a third world country for crypto purposes, if anything else. With everything moving now in the last few months, I think the UK have woken up and gone, actually, we need to do something just to keep up, let alone to be ahead of the game. So will we keep up? I believe we will at this rate if we continue. Which is great, completely different tone compared to the last time you asked me. Will we lead it? I don't think so. I think we are too far gone to be one of the leaders in this space in relation to crypto, unless something dramatic changes. Now, with everything happening with the election, and of course a very crypto pro Nigel Farage, things might change. I really don't know.
So you talked about potentially there being something in the future that they're going to need this clarity around stablecoins. Is that going to be anything to do with a CBDC in the UK? Because I know that in Europe, they're starting to do the pilots, aren't they? 2026, 2027, they've got the digital euro pilot come in. Have you heard anything about something similar in the UK in the pipeline?
No, I've not heard anything about CBDCs or Bitcoin, as they called it a few years ago, in a while. Is this to do with that? Not that I know of, but again, this might be a reason why they're pushing it through. I don't know. Do I think that the banks will adopt some form of blockchain-based ecosystem for fiat? Yeah, I think that's a question of when's that coming in, not if. It makes perfect sense. But yeah, if CBDCs are specifically coming in, I don't know. I really don't know.
So I'm not going to say who they are because it's unfair of me to do that. But we've been contacted at the UK Crypto Podcast from some people that are on the board of advisories for MiCA in Europe. And they've requested to come on to the UK Crypto Podcast. And I was like, that's a strange request. Why? And they said, because we think there's a mistake happening in the EU and we think it's going to affect people in the UK and we want to start getting the word out there and we need the UK support.
Okay.
So they are incoming to the UK Crypto Podcast in June. They're on about flying somebody to the UK to appear in person. They think it's that important to get the UK on board. So I'm not going to say who they are right now because that's not the right thing to do. But I think everybody, the Americans are arguing left, right and centre when it comes to the stable coins. It looks like the EU that we think have got their house in order. Maybe they haven't quite got their house in order as much as we think. The UK definitely haven't got their house in order. Makes you wonder which countries have got their house in order right now. The only ones that I think that nobody really moans about is Dubai.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And even they're going to start taxing people soon. So all of a sudden the bubble's going to be burst there too, right? Yeah.
But I think potentially there's so much revenue that the banks could lose through stablecoins being able to create a yield for people that there is worry and concerns from central banks around how they potentially get involved with crypto or they just completely put a blocker on crypto so that they don't miss out.
Yeah, I think the issue, no matter what the question is, sector, where we are geographically, is education. It's genuinely education. People just don't know where, because if you think about who is in control of sort of the big banks, sort of international economy, the people that ran the big boy table, the tables that we didn't even know exists, the chances of them being sub 45 with a knowledge of crypto is highly unlikely. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but. And I know it's unfair to say, oh, these older people won't know as much as the younger. I'm just being very generic here, just and the chances are that they've spent the last decade looking into something that was a maybe when they don't have to because their career is set, because they're comfortable. Yeah. I just can't see it. I just cannot see it.
Really, you talk about that kind of level. It's about who they got in their circle advising each person. So each person that's there will probably have a team of people around them. It's about how many younger people are in their team to advise them. Look at Trump. Yeah. He's pro-crypto because of some of the people that are around him. It's not him. He was actually anti-crypto. Yeah. He said Bitcoin was a scam, if you remember back in the day. Yeah. But look at the people around him, including his sons, the younger generation. They're actively influence him, don't they?
I think this is why when we looked at the convention in Davos, and we had some really, really high, powerful people in the financial sector, and then all of a sudden you were starting to see CEOs from crypto companies also sitting in the same rooms.
Ripple, Coinbase, they all landed, didn't they? Yeah,
so I think that is starting to merge, but I think you're absolutely right. If we've got old school TradFi that have probably been influenced by mainstream media as much as the everyday guy on the street. And crypto was deemed this kind of dark place to be that was full of criminals and full of scammers. And I just hope that they can understand actually how much
benefit.
How much benefit and how many things that they could utilize this technology for. But it's not going to be a quick ship to turn, is it? Because if you think, how do you start integrating that into what's already a massive system that controls so much and has so much power? Because the governments and the central banks are so closely connected.
On the flip side of that, though, it's good to know from the horse's mouth. Jamie's talking about the fact that in the UK, they are having positive conversations behind closed doors. And that's important to know because the average retail person, the average person doing crypto in the UK, we don't know what happens behind closed doors. We don't see those, which is why it's so important, Jamie, that people like you do have a place to talk. Yeah. Because actually, I think it's really important that people know, actually, they are trying. Yeah. Are they doing it as fast as I'd like? Yeah. No, that doesn't matter. The fact is at least there's steps in the right direction and sensible conversations are happening. Yeah. And that actually gives me a glimmer of hope for the UK. Because if there wasn't people like you, Jamie, giving me that information now, today, then actually I'd probably be feeling very negative about the UK and crypto scene right now in terms of regulation and moving forward and innovation. But at least the conversation is happening. Yeah. We just need to speed it up a bit. Yeah. We just need to do it a bit quicker. We just need to be a bit quicker with this.
Because it's no different from the mass adoption story, is it? Because everybody's looking at companies like Ripple and they're going, you keep telling me that mass adoption's coming and it's going to be integrated and you're building these payment rails, but I'm looking at the chart and I'm not seeing this reflected in price. Yeah. And I think very much as retail, we expect there's a news story or there's a change and it happens straight away. And I think it's probably good to speak to somebody like you, Jamie, and just to explain actually how long some of this stuff can take, because it isn't instant. None of these things are instant, and it's not going to be reflected on the price charts tomorrow.
I think that leads to an interesting question, and I'm not asking you to hang your hat on it, right? But how long do you think this might take until there is some form of a stablecoin solution, framework, all those things? So a bit like the things you talk about. Are we talking a year, 10 years? How long do you think this is going to take until the conversations you're having in a room with a group of professionals around a table turn out to be something that rubber stamped and actually in action, in force, being used?
I think it could be 12 months, genuinely, because
that's okay.
Because these conversations are happening very frequent. In the last 2 months, I've had about 3 meetings about this. Plus the other ones on the side where we talk about it beforehand and afterhand and debrief and everything else. So that's like we've had a dozen meetings.
So you have meetings about meetings. I love it.
I know. But when you're going to a room full of other professionals and HMRC, the worst thing you want to do is sit there and with your sort of area, so the tax area or the legal area or whatever it is, you don't want to sit there, say something, and then everyone else in that sort of section go, I don't think that's quite right. You know, you want to iron all of that out before you get into the room.
Yeah.
Before you get to the big room. That makes sense.
Yeah, which seems sensible. But yeah, that's happening a lot more frequently last few months, whereas the DeFi stuff, I mean, that was once every maybe 6 months or so. Like it was very sporadic. So I would say based on the frequency, I think it could be 12 months. Something's happening in the background that I'm not privy to or I've completely missed. That something's happening that must rely on this because they're pushing it really hard. And like I said, the DeFi and the loaning and everything else that can lean on the stablecoin thing. So that might be what's pushing it. But the bigger picture that we're looking at is within the next 12 months, if all goes well, we could see a couple of things. Number one, stablecoins are no longer you're not going to pay taxes on your stablecoins across the board. Brilliant. Number two, you might be able to borrow against your Bitcoin or your Ethereum and not pay taxes at the point that you borrow against it. Because at the moment, if you do borrow, 100,000 USDC against a Bitcoin, that Bitcoin that's put up for the collateral could be deemed as a disposal because you lose economic benefit potentially. So we could be in a whole new position within 12 months very quickly.
That's amazing.
I think this is pretty good. So I think that's been a pretty good UK stablecoin update,
we
really.
really appreciate you coming on and giving the viewers an update.
Because it's such a unique perspective. Very few people will be able to give a perspective like that. Most people will either be guessing or regurgitating information they've read somewhere else.
Yeah.
But you're talking about first-hand conversations that you're seeing happening. And I really appreciate you coming on to talk to us about that. If you get anything else that you think would be good like that and you want to do another chat like this, you let us know. We'll have you on anytime you want, Jamie.
We really appreciate it.
No, I thank you guys so much for having me. And please remember, these are all opinions. These are all comments. These are all Chatham House rules. Anything can happen, but I'm trying to give you guys sort of first-hand information where humanly possible. But yeah, thank you very much, guys.
But also, Jamie, whilst you're on the episode with us today, give the viewers your social handles so that they can give you a follow because you're updating your socials all the time as news comes out.
Absolutely. So on Instagram, on X, it's all Crypto Tax JME. Nice and easy. Please throw me a follow. You're either going to see me post about all of this, what we've just discussed, or my little monkey boy over here. I'm a little bit of a fan, but yeah, have a follow and I'll be happy to answer any questions if you do reply to my tweets and of course TikToks as well.
Also, if anybody does need some professional crypto tax advice, there's going to be a link in the description here. We'll be able to click and go and get a consultation with Jamie or one of his team members. Remember, this is not a link so you'll be able to go and randomly have a chat about crypto. If you want a random chat about crypto, come and talk to me on the internet. If you really have a need for a crypto tax accountant, click on the link, go and get yourself a consultation. In my opinion, Jamie, you are the best crypto tax accountant in the country and we appreciate everything you do with us.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, new episodes of the UK Crypto Podcast are out every Friday, 7 p.m. on YouTube and on Spotify. And on TikTok.
That's right.
So full episodes also available on the TikTok channel. Go and give us a follow. It's at UK Crypto Podcast.